love guru, Kanu Nanu Jacobsen. Hello, Kanu.
Kanu Nunu.
Nunu. That's like
How are
that.
you? Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. I mean, I was excited when you said you booked yourself and that you wanted to talk about what it means like to become a love attractor. I was like, whoa, baby, I like that. I like the sound of that.
Well, we went through an amazing time last time on my birthday, but we didn't get to cover. One of the favorite things I like to talk about is what I work with people, what I work with women, and soon to be adding men on how to become a love attractor. Because who doesn't want to be a love attractor, right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely. A long time ago, I remember was like, well, if you could attract men or women, which one would you attract? And I was like, well, I mean, women, but I mean, I still want to be friends. Like, and I've got a lot of guy friends that like, guy, I love you so much. You know what I mean? But there's different types of love, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, well, thank you for being here on the show, and thank you for, whatever. It's all going to be good. And so I think it's really interesting though that you've been doing this work now for what? How long? A couple of years, right?
I mean, with research and everything else, I look about 5 years, I think.
Okay, 5
Yeah.
years. And you coined yourself the love guru, or somebody, I can't remember. I think it was somebody like
Right. I don't want to
tagged
say that
you.
I coined myself the love guru. I am now calling myself the love guru, but it started off with actually such an honor. One of the publications here in Phoenix, Arizona, they do this yearly thing where they uh, rank storytellers in the area, and so unbeknownst to me, I was on there, and amongst like Pulitzer Prize winners and like journalists and like amazing, amazing accolades, and I made it to top 50. Actually, I think it was like number 31 or something like that
Uh-huh.
in the entire state of Arizona.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm, so happy and grateful to be nominated and to actually be amongst all those amazing people.
Hmm. Well, thank
Yeah.
you for joining me again. It was like a week ago Monday that you were our person behind the passion.
On my birthday.
Yeah,
Yep.
on your birthday, and you went back and told us the story of how you right ended up where you're at right now. Give us
Right.
like a 30-second overview so people can remember who you are, where you came from, how you ended up being the love guru.
Oh, well, 30 seconds is very short, but
I
here
know.
goes. So, Kanu Jacobsen, love guru, possibility champion, like you said, originally from Zimbabwe. I live in Phoenix, Arizona now, by way of Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and a podcast host and producer of Real Love, Real Stories, and as well my new project, Loved and Lost, which talks about grief and loss.
Hmm.
But the Love Guru title is from being the host and producer of the love stories that I do. And, since I also have a Master of Arts in counseling, I decided to take take the path of helping, in particular, women find love. Because, being the host and producer of Real Love, Real Stories, I've had the opportunity of talking to many, many people, and in particular, women. So, finding out like what are your frustrations of not finding love, and those that found love, what did you do well that led you to meeting your partner, and so that I can share those stories and help those that might be losing hope in finding love, and kind of give them like just a good story, a good love story to hear and keep the hope alive in terms of like love exists and you can find it when you least expect it, and it is very clearly shown in some of the stories that I've shared on my podcast.
Hmm.
So more than 30 seconds, but
You're good. You're fine. So I remember you telling me you were in a coffee shop and you were observing people sitting, they were
oh
sitting
yeah.
there, and then that's how you kind of approached people and were like, well, how did you guys meet? And then you were so,
Yeah, yeah, so
that's
just think.
really
Yeah,
takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, as you said, when I lived in Portland, loved hanging out in coffee shops, and I still do here too in Phoenix. And I just love people watching. And I found myself in particular watching couples and like seeing the two people that walk in holding hands and like thinking to myself sometimes like, huh, those two people look like they don't belong together, but look how happy they look.
Hmm.
And so then I would start making my own story in my head as to how they met. But then I was like, you know what? I really want to hear how they met. So I think I shared with you last time I was standing behind this couple in line to get my coffee. And I just happened to be, the conversation sort of organically, headed that way. And I asked them how they met, and it was such a fascinating story. And then I was like, I want to continue asking people how they met, and it was like so awesome to hear. And then I said I needed to capture these and share them with everyone I know. And you can, on your commute to work, you can be hearing love stories from people that that are happy. So I know you're married, so maybe I can ask you this question. How did you and your wife meet? Is that okay for me to ask?
Yeah, yeah. We met at work. We were both
Okay.
working for the same company, and I was in the middle of a divorce, and she was in a relationship. The first time I saw her, she was facing away. I could only see her from behind her hair, and she was new. I had been working there for, I don't know, 7 or 8, 9 years. And I looked and I saw the back for us. Oh, new girl. And I said, oh, she's kind of got a nice hair. So then we met, and hello, how you doing? She was dating, and I'm going through divorce, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so every so often I was in sales. So I was outside sales guy. And so then I would come into the office every so often to grab literature and meetings and things like that. Hey, Diane, how are you? How's it going? It's going good. How's it going with your boyfriend? It's okay. And then that would go on for several, months, like almost a year. And I come back in for another meeting, and hey, Diane, how's it going? How's it going with your boyfriend? He's not too great. He was mean to me last weekend. I'm like, oh man. So then one day I'm in there, and I'm in a really big hurry, and I'm like by the copy machine copying stuff because I've got a meeting outside, like a half hour away. And
Mm-hmm.
she comes into the copy room and says hi, and I'm standing there and having small talk, and I popped the question like, hey, so how's it going with your boyfriend? In the back of my mind I'm thinking, hopefully maybe it's not going so good. So then I said, so tell me, so how's it going with your boyfriend, and she says, I don't know, I don't think it's going to work out. I says, that's terrible. She says, yeah, he was really mean to me again, and blah blah blah. I says, you know what, I want to be your boyfriend. she she
You did?
she went white, man. She's like, and she turned, she walked out. She didn't say a word. She walked out. She went, I don't know where she went, back to her desk. So I'm in a hurry, and I have all this paper. I got my briefcase, and I look over. She's sitting there. I walked over to her desk and I said, hey, let's have dinner tonight at the Italian restaurant over on Devon Avenue. She said, okay.
Oh my, that is so awesome.
So we've been together ever since.
See, that's what I'm saying. Everybody's got a great story, and like you could meet somebody that you end up being in love with and marry at work in the coffee room, and like your guts of just saying, I want to be your boyfriend, like that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, that was in '95. So add that up.
Wow. See, I
Yeah.
love this. Sounds like you should be on my podcast. You should have your own episode on my podcast.
Okay. I accept. That's great. Okay. Well, so all right. So this show is called Why It's Important. And so, I mean, why is it important to be a love attractor? That's a really good question.
Yeah. So, actually, the being a love attractor to me in the way that first of all, it's a course. as a therapist and a coach, I work with women in particular, but I'm also working open to working with men. People that come to me, they are struggling to find love. They have tried everything. They've been hooked up by friends. They have done online dating. They've gone to speed dating. They've hired, expensive matchmakers, and still are frustrated at the end of the day.
Hmm.
Like they are not finding love, right? And part of the reason why is that they are perceived a certain way and they don't know why they're perceived that way. So these people often find themselves going on one failed date after another. And at the end of the day, they still don't have a partner. So I work with them in really trying to figure out why it is that they are essentially repelling love, right? Because they do go out with many people, but still it doesn't work. Or maybe they don't even go out with anybody because they don't know where to go or what to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it is very important to work on the person from the inside out.
Hmm.
So it attracts, you end up attracting love in terms of, the romantic love, obviously, because that's what they really want. But also, what it does is the relationships at work, they will thrive. Even relationships at home, they will also thrive just based on the work that we do. So it's becoming a love attractor in the sense of romantic love, but also organically, it actually benefits the other relationships in whoever's lives that I work with.
Hmm.
So it is very important to work on yourself inside out so that you're attracting, the love that you want for sure.
Hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, a long time ago, I don't remember if we talked about this in the last show, but I had learned. I was sitting there in a workshop in a seminar, and the guy up in the front of the room was talking about um, primary relationship. Who is
Mhm.
your primary relationship with? And I was thinking was, if I was married or in a relationship with someone, it would be that my partner and or like my parents was, I thought, was the primary relationship. And he was having people guess basically. And he's like, no, 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 nobody got it. And he's like, no, your primary relationship is with yourself. And it's
Right.
like, as soon as he said that, I was like, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
That if I'm not okay with me, or if I'm, whatever, out of whack, for a better word, then yeah, that's what I'm sort of rippling effect out there. And that's really where it started. So what you're doing that is hugely important to get people to
Abs-
look at that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's why when you go to the bookstore, right? The self-care, self-help aisle is like it keeps expanding and expanding. I don't know how many aisles now they are, but so many books, so much material out there because it's important that we work on ourselves. I hear a lot of people say, a relationship is a 50-50 thing. And I disagree with that. You have to work on yourself so that you're 100%, so that when you get into a relationship with somebody, it's two whole people coming together. You don't need each other, but you're going through it, life and relationship together. You're not so dependent on the other person for your happiness,
Mhm.
because we all know that it doesn't work, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Right.
my goal is to work with, whoever that I work with, really to really work on themselves, change their own narrative on how they perceive themselves and also how they're perceived by others, and then turn that into an advantage to allow love to find them, or for them to find the love. Because sometimes love is around us and we don't see it because we're blinded by whatever it is that's blinding us from seeing love. I often hear, even in TV shows or movies, where this person goes out and dates all these other people, but there's always this person who's always there, and they don't see that that's the person they should be with until they have gone and gotten their heart broken and then they come back and say, you've always been here this whole time. So my goal really is to just have people love the person they see in the mirror, so that when they go out on dates, you know, that they don't settle for the wrong person because they are not very confident with themselves. They're
Hmm.
not aligned with their values. And, but it takes some work, right, to get to that point. Um,
Yeah, I
so,
agree. It does take some work. I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, so when I was during that time,
mhm,
when I was telling the story, I was going through my divorce, and I was working with a teacher, with a mentor, like you, right?
mhm,
And so I was having this conversation with him, and he says, you're not ready for a relationship, Dominic. And because I was like, why did I mess this up? And I was feeling all,
mhm,
bummed out, like, oh my God, and I thought it was a great relationship. And then, he's like, no, you're not ready. You need to work on yourself. You need to become the kind of a person that somebody wants to be with.
yep.
And
That's
I was
that's
just
a
like,
really good
well,
person to
I'm
take
so
on.
awesome already.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's not like it was a negative thing for me. It was more like, if I'm not okay with me in whatever aspect that is, and I have had this discussion with many people about, like, for example, weight. That's a big
Uh-huh.
thing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I had been in relationships with people that were overweight, and I was madly in love, and they were not in love with themselves.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, why am I allowing myself to be in a relationship with someone that is not in love with themselves? And to me, it's not about being overweight. It's about, if someone is out there striving for their more ideal self,
Right.
they're going to feel better about themselves. That's the kind of person that I want to be with, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I see that a lot where, and oftentimes it's people that are in a relationship and that relationship ends. Most times I hear people, the first thing, I want to lose weight, I want to do this, I want to do that. So it's like, first of all, you were not in prison in that relationship before. You should have been doing those things in that relationship. And now and it's a good thing, obviously, right? That they're starting to work on themselves and lose the weight that they want to lose. But to your point, yeah, absolutely. Whoever that person that told you that you were not ready, they were picking up on some things you were saying, and that perhaps made them feel like you were not mentally ready to be with somebody. But also to the people that you dated, where they were not happy with themselves. That's the type of woman that I want to work with and say, I want you to get to a point where you're happy with yourself without even thinking about the person that you're with, because you need to be okay with yourself.
Hmm.
You need to love yourself. You need to accept yourself before you even think about anybody else that you're going to be in a relationship with.
Hmm.
So it all starts with you.
And I agree with that. It does start with us. And the other thing that I learned from this guy was, like, we can't really see ourselves. We have a certain objective view,
Mm-hmm.
and we think that we know ourselves in the, in the minute details. But from an external view, it's kind of like, if someone came up to me and said, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about this part of me, or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I think that I would have a much different opinion than they would. That's called feedback, right?
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking from a completely different viewpoint. And
Absolutely.
so I always like walking around like, yeah, I mean, I got my act together. I feel good about myself and all this other stuff, which after I began to look at it and refine it, it wasn't that I was like wanting to find things that were wrong. It was that I wasn't living up to my own standards,
Right.
you
And
know?
what you're talking about is actually module 2, where the people I work with, they go through this process of facing your blind spots and getting feedback from people that you're trusted people. You have those people that will give you that honest feedback. And so that's something that we have to work through, is to get that feedback from people that love us, that will only give us feedback that will help us grow.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that it's a very important part that I actually try to do it twice a year, you know, just to check in with my trusted people and go, hey, so, what areas do you see me where I can grow? You know,
Mhm.
and and they're also open to me giving them feedback also. So it's kind of, you need that group of people that you can trust to ask those questions, and they will provide you with feedback. But for the people that I work with, I actually ask them to send it to those trusted people so that they get the feedback anonymously. Because what I have
Mhm.
found out is, once you hear the honest truth, sometimes it doesn't sit very well, and then somebody gets upset. So and then it defeats the purpose of like getting that feedback. So I do it anonymously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's also too, I mean, that's tenuous ground because I mean, some people, their feedback is not always credible. And so they have to be, if I'm going to ask somebody for their feedback, it really needs to be somebody that, from my observation, has the
Mm.
ability, has a clarity of mind to perceive correctly, you know?
Right. And that's why I say you ask your trusted people,
Yeah. Yeah.
only the people that care about your well-being, and they will give you that feedback that will actually help you grow instead of hurting you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
okay. So let's do a thing here with our fingers. So why it's important, because to become a love attractor is because if I work on myself, then I mean that can't be bad. That's it's important because I'm going to feel better about myself.
Yes.
Okay, help me out.
Yeah, so you work on yourself to, like I was saying, it's about getting into a relationship when you're 100%, not when you're looking for somebody to complete you, you know. And so you work on yourself so that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you love the person that you're seeing. And when you do that, actually, because you love yourself, when you go to the store, when you go to wherever you go, you have that energy that actually attracts people to you.
Hmm.
And so it's just, I mean, it's really about really working on yourself first before you start to go and go on dates.
Hmm. So,
Yeah.
would you recommend people like, okay, so like I got recommended as Dominic, don't have a relationship for at least a year so you can work on yourself and get yourself to a place where when you look in
Hmm.
the mirror, you're
Hmm.
like, dude, you're awesome, you know? And
Yeah, I don't know if I would put time frame though, because each person is different.
yeah.
I may work on myself for a month and I'm good, you know, and then somebody else may work on themselves for 6 months and they're still struggling.
Hmm.
So it also depends on like what happened that is making you work on yourself. Like divorce could be really bad divorce, a breakup that could have been really bad, or maybe it was time for you to get out of that relationship. And so you're ready. So I wouldn't put a time frame and say you need a year, you need 6 months, you need whatever. It's just each person is different.
Hmm.
Only you will know that you're ready, you know.
Right. Right.
And actually, people will start to be attracted to you. It could be at work, even. We talk about changing your narrative on how you're perceived. Sometimes, even in the workplace, you're perceived in a negative way. But once you start to change how you respond to things, or what you say, what you do, whatever it is that you need to change, you can start to see even those relationships blossom at work, at
Hmm.
church, at whatever functions that you go. You would see all those relationships actually start to change, just because you're that's what you have control over, is changing you and
Hmm.
how you react to things and what you do.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I don't know why he said a year, but he probably could see me better than I could. And, especially when people go through divorce, I've been through two of them, they're not
Hmm.
fun. They're emotional. I was mad. I was, sad. I was all that. So, I mean, the time needed to be there
Hmm.
uh, for things to settle out and to heal and let go and all that. And I mean, I think that's really what happens naturally for people. They have to, I mean, I can only speak for myself. And
Yeah.
what I've seen, it's like it does take time to heal a little bit, let things go and then get back to, you know, get back to square zero and then begin to work on myself from there. And that's really that was the natural course of events. So what you're doing is really, it is really important and it really is helpful to people to be guided. And in a lot of ways, they, I'm sure, have to become, a bit vulnerable at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time grateful to
Hmm.
you for what you do. So yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, talk about being vulnerable. It's part of my acronym that I use, LOVER, you know. So, we talk about love being an inherent need, right? Like we all need love. And then as we grow up, the O part is being optimism. We're surrounded by movies, by TV shows, by even, for me, having an example of my own parents having a great relationship. So I grew up very optimistic about finding love, and so, and then you move on to V, vulnerability. And, as I got married and then divorced, and then starting to look for love again. And, at that point where my friends were getting married and I'm invited to weddings, and again, I'm still very optimistic about finding love and not really finding it, and then at some point feeling like, you know, I want to empower myself. And we talked about the bookstore and the endless aisles of self-help
Mhm.
and people like me, right? Like helping. And so some of these things that I teach, my clients, actually not all of them, they're all tried and true strategies that I've gone through and have seen what change they've made in my life. We were talking about feedback. I've actually sent feedback to my trusted people and got really amazing feedback, which then led me to that sense of like I felt renewed by all this process, which completes that acronym LOVER. And I can tell you that my relationships, whether romantic, and still single and looking, but I know what I'm looking for, and I'm not, I'm very much aligned with my core values, and I did a vision board that's in my bedroom where I look at it all the time, and I
Mhm.
also have one of my trusted uh, one person from that trusted group of people that I send my messages to, when I share with her the dates that I go on, she's able to remind me like, are you sure this person fits into that, that list of things that you wrote for yourself? So you need those people in your life that will remind you not to settle, if you will. Because sometimes we
Mhm.
feel, I want a relationship, and then you kind of forget your values. But you need those people that will remind you to stay true to your values, and it will lead you to finding real love.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, values are a big part of it, and all the work that I've done working with people, when I bring up values, a lot of times there's this like look on their face like, what does it have to do with anything? Well, I mean, it has everything to do with everything. We don't really, if unless we define the values that we want to live by,
Hmm.
that we value as values, right?
Yeah.
Then it's kind of like things just go everywhere. And then this is where all the problems happen because there's no real definition around it. And I'm not trying to make it really complicated. I'm trying to simplify it really when,
Right.
when in working with people in that way. Ruchi is out there, Ruchi Kalra,
Hmm.
her. Hi, Ruchi.
Oh, is she commenting?
She's watching and she's commenting. She's
Hi, Roshi.
yeah,
And I
she's
think
she's out there. She's saying
you
her dad
might,
always used to say, um, we can only change ourselves." Absolutely,
oh yeah, absolutely.
we all
Yeah.
know that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
you might have some people watching from Zimbabwe and South Africa as well that are on here. I can't see who's on, but
I show one person right now, but there was a couple before that were here and
okay.
gone. So, but yeah, I mean, it's all really interesting stuff. Primary relationship. It's important. Why? Because we have to have a relationship with ourselves. Who
Hmm.
wouldn't agree with that? If I have an antagonistic relationship with myself, I'm going to do a lot of weird things. And those weird things are going to cause consequences. And then if I go get into a relationship with someone, and you know how it is in the beginning relationship, right? How long does the love story last? It's for like 3 weeks or something like that.
You mean the love story last 3 weeks?
Well, you know how when we get into a relationship, it's all fuzzy and
Or like
you
the
know,
honeymoon
we all,
phase?
yeah, the honeymoon phase and all that stuff. And then people begin to see our true colors and how weird we are if we're not in alignment with our values, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And that's why it's important to make sure that you have them written down so that you're reminded of what they are, and you don't sweep some of these things under the rug, and red flags are everywhere and you're like justifying them, right? And that's
Mm,
when you get into a relationship and you start to see those red flags and realize, I don't want to be with this person.
that's right. It's true. And then the whole, yeah, I mean, I think that, authenticity and openness and all that all comes into play, and if you're going to be in a relationship with someone and you begin to see some weird things happening. I met someone not too long ago. Their partner that they were with ended up being a crackhead.
What? You
Yeah,
mean they started using after, or they were
they were
using before?
using it during the relationship, and this guy hid it, right?
Wow.
And she was all up in arms, and I can understand the pain, the hurt, the
Mm-hmm.
you know the deception and all that stuff. And I said, the thing is that's everybody has to understand, this is a very important part of what you're saying, is that when you get into a relationship with someone, it's a free for all. I mean, you got to understand that you never know what's going to happen. So even though you could define all of these things,
Mm-hmm.
something comes in from the left, and all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, what was that all about?" Well, it's part of the package. You have to expect that something could be unexpected. Like you get into a job, and all of a sudden you get changed to a different department, and now you have a different manager. Like, I didn't sign on for this. Well, of course you did. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, wow, great stuff. So how do we listen to your podcast, and what about your course? So how do people get a hold of your course and all that stuff? Tell us.
Yeah, so the website is singlewomansadvantage.com, and there's
Single.
singlewomansadvantage.com. So I'm doing a pre-sale for that course that I'm releasing in January. And then there is a membership area that I'm creating, which is very exciting, that is launching actually this Friday, where if you don't want to pay the lump sum of $500 for the course, you could just become a member at $29.99 per month. And you get the same, sort of same content, um, but coming to you monthly, and you get access with me. I'll be doing lives, and I'll answer any questions. I can schedule some one-on-one time with those that need a little bit more, want to know more. There's just so much. So, Single Woman's Advantage is the site. There's tons of information on there that people can see the different products that I offer. But as far as the podcast itself, yes, it's called Real Love, Real Stories, and you can find it on any podcast platform, including Pandora, now Amazon, and Audible. Now, actually, you can access podcasts there.
Wow, great. I'll leave it
Spotify.
up to you. Sorry, I'll leave it up to you to put the links in, because I don't want to mess them up.
No, no problem. I can link it to my website, because getting into all the podcast platforms, it all depends on what kind of phone people use
Yeah.
and what all they listen their podcast on. But I can link it to my website, and then people can find it from there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
Great. Absolutely. I think it's Ruchi's saying that she's still in the honeymoon phase. Yeah, it's her.
Oh, so
She's
many
still in
years later.
it's so
That's
funny
awesome.
because when she was nominated for Person Behind the Passion, I'd like to put the announcements and have a photo of the person.
Uh-huh.
So I'm looking for a photo of just Ruchi, and there's none. It's like her and her husband, and he's really good looking too. And I'm like, okay, all right, search and search, and maybe I can crop this one. Maybe I'll crop him out of it. Couldn't find it. It took me a long time.
Yeah, they do have a
Ruchi.
wonderful love story. I've had the opportunity to hear her tell me about it. So that's see that those are the stories that I'm talking about where people who are single and maybe even people that are in relationships that are struggling and they need just a little bit of hope. Hearing somebody who I don't remember how many years she's been married and is still in the honeymoon phase. You know, it's like, what did they do right? What are they doing that is making them stay in that honeymoon phase that we can spread with everybody so that other people can adopt some of those things too? So
Mhm.
that's why I love recording these love stories and sharing them with people because
That's
we can
awesome.
always learn something.
That's awesome. She says he's such a good guy. Hey, I'm a good guy too, but he's so much better looking. I was thinking, I'm never gonna. I mean, if I ever get to meet him, I don't want any pictures taken with him because if we get photos next, nobody will look at me. Okay, you're gonna be like,
Well, if we ask your wife, I'm sure she would say you're the most handsome man, there is. So,
my wife thinks so. So does my mother.
oh, there you go. Those are two very important women in your life.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Super pleasure. This is such a great conversation too. So, okay, you're invited back, of course, and we can come up with another topic and discuss that. But this is great. So, become a love attractor for yourself first.
Yes.
Absolutely
Mm-hmm.
is the
And
big
then
message that I'm hearing from you.
absolutely, absolutely. If anybody has any questions, they can always reach out to me. I love talking to people, and sharing my wisdom and all that information that I know about love. I love spreading love like confetti, like I always say. So
Spread love like confetti. That's the
there
magic.
you go.
The magic dust.
I wasn't
Okay.
gonna leave this live without saying that. So
Like confetti. All
yeah,
right. Be well. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all for watching. Thank you,
you
Ruchi,
as
and all
well.
of you for joining us. We appreciate it. Thanks for having fun. And from all of us here in the Self Achievement Network, remember to stay inspired and have fun, right?
All right. Thank